This is The Drive with Dale Lolley and Matt Williamson on your 24/7 home of the black and gold. SNR, Steelers Nation Radio.
Welcome to The Drive. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And, it is a lovely Friday out there.
Yeah, the sun's out.
Balmy.
Right.
Balmy.
Right. It's clear, the sun's out. You can't complain.
Went to wear shorts today.
I thought about it.
Yeah, I knew you would. Anyways, it's conference championship weekend.
Yeah, a lot of stuff going on in the league right now.
Going on around the league. Hirings, firings.
Yeah.
All that good stuff. But I wanted to dig in today, Matt, I did my third position review.
Oh, okay,
that
cool.
dropped today on Steelers.com. And that was looking at the team's wide receivers.
Gotcha. Okay.
And this was an interesting one because if you look at it, going into at this time last year, the Steelers had under contract George Pickens, Calvin Austin, Deontay Johnson.
Okay. Going into free agency.
Going into
season
at this time as the season ended,
right.
that's what they had under contract. And when they came out of all the stuff, they obviously traded Deontay Johnson to get Dante Jackson, swap some draft picks there.
Yeah.
So you had the two holdovers, George Pickens and Calvin Austin. And then over the course of the year, they added Van Jefferson, Mike Williams, Ben Skoranek, Scotty Miller, Roman Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
And really, when you look at the position, the only two guys who kind of fulfilled their expectations were George Pickens and Calvin Austin.
Yeah, the guys you drafted that you liked, that you scouted all along and all that. Yeah, and doesn't mean Wilson won't. Skoranek was a nice addition.
It was a
year
year ago at this time. Roman Wilson was at the Senior Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Tomlin was challenging him to go up
heavily.
Against
Mitchell for the Eagles.
Yeah, against Quinn and Mitchell. Like, you guys are the two best guys on this at your positions.
Out here, yeah.
And you need to go against each other as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So I guarantee part of what Mike Tomlin at his exit meeting with Roman Wilson this year was challenging him, hey, your rookie season, pal, was not what we expected. Probably wasn't what you expected either.
Right. I'm heading down to Senior Bowl, and I remember last year.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
And we need you to be that guy.
Mm-hmm.
Because he more than held his own against Quinn and Mitchell in those situations.
Oh, he had a really good Senior Bowl, and
he
was coming off a national title. I mean, the Michigan he just got a ring, and a lot of people thought that he was going in the second round. But I think, he's not the biggest guy in the world. He looks like he's mostly a slot. And a good receiver draft, too. I mean, that didn't help his cause either. He'd probably go higher this year. So that story is definitely not written.
Yeah.
And I don't think by any means, or you were implying this, he's a bust, he was a letdown, or any of that kind of stuff.
Although there are people out there that say stuff like, after 1 year, he's a bust. Come on.
Like, that was a wasted pick. They just threw that one away. You get hurt, We talked about it all year. So he's like an incoming rookie.
Yeah.
And
really more so than any of the other guys. The guys who Fautano for sure. Fautano at least started a game and played the entire game.
I know, a full training camp and all that stuff too, right.
And even the other guys who got hurt at least got to go through all a training camp.
Yeah.
So he's the guy that didn't.
Right.
And
you are bringing in like basically another rookie receiver.
Yeah. So, I mean, he didn't even get to play in the preseason.
No, right. I mean,
it's all going to be new for him.
You've never seen him in black and gold pads, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right. So I don't know that anyone had massive hopes for Jefferson, though, or
I thought he would be better than what he turned out. And I
thought he'd make more plays.
I thought he would make more plays than he did. Not that he didn't make some plays, but a lot of times they just kind of ignored him in the passing game.
Yeah.
And,
his tape wasn't wonderful. And, I mean, he's probably a journeyman that's a number 4 receiver that I thought maybe could be a 3. I knew that there wasn't a 2 on the team, but I think Austin assured us that he is a 3, which is a compliment. That's great. I mean, the number 3 receivers are not, they don't just grow on trees. Where Jefferson's a 4. Williams, I don't know what to think of, but I mean,
his production with the Steelers was pretty much the same production he had with the Jets.
Yeah, I mean, it might just be who he is at this point. I mean, he's not a
maybe it's he needed a year to recover from the knee injury. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but he's 30 now.
I would consider offering him a league minimum type deal just to revisit it and see what happens. But he doesn't help you on teams. Neither does Van Jefferson for that matter. Fourth receivers almost have to help on teams unless
that's a big
you're
part
really special.
Which is where Skoranek comes in.
Exactly. And especially if you're not ever going to run 4 receiver sets, let alone very many 3 receiver sets. If you live in 11, well, my 4th guy, maybe he doesn't have to be on teams. I have an extra guy. I don't have that 4th tight end on game day, available. But Skoranek to me is valuable.
Yeah.
I mean, he's behind Landon Roberts, but not many others in terms of free agents I'd like to bring back.
Yeah. I mean, he does the gritty work.
Yeah. I mean, I remember spending a lot of time in training camp. This team doesn't have any gunners. Well, he's a good one.
Yeah.
And I can live with him on offense here and there.
Yeah. I mean, he made some plays when he was out there. He blocks. He does all the gritty stuff. He's just a football player.
Mm-hmm.
Scotty Miller, it is what it is.
You got a little bit out of him.
You got a little something out of him. Again, if you bring him back just for a minimum deal at training camp, and he whatever.
Maybe he needs an injury to make the team, but whatever. I mean, you know what he is at this point, and you can live with it, but it's not – you're not going to throw him 12 passes a game and ride him to the postseason. Right. I mean, he is what he is.
But he made some plays last year.
Yeah. He'll be in the league next year.
The big thing is and again, we did the mock draft yesterday on yesterday's show of what this team looks like if you don't have George Pickens.
I know. That's one of the reasons why I'd be interested in bringing back Williams. He's not close to the player Pickens is. But if you're going to make a Pickens trade, I think that makes it a little more palatable as a big ball winner outside the numbers. Or maybe Williams a shot. I don't know. But at least it's one other thing to have looming if you're going to move on from Pickens,
Yeah.
Because we saw it last year. I mean, okay, they traded Deontay, but they're going to make a deal. They'll add somebody. Oh, they'll add somebody. Oh, they're getting Ayuk. Oh, they're getting added. And you can't count on those deals are definitely going to happen.
No, the musical, they thought initially had scheduled a visit with Mike Williams in free agency.
Right.
He was supposed to come to Pittsburgh, but he was going to New York first.
Mm-hmm.
And New York didn't let him get out of the building.
Right.
Like, that happens in free agency. There's no guarantees.
Right. You can get the short end of the stick.
Yeah.
There was a time, not that I had great sources or, was sitting there with Omar when the deal was made. I thought Ayuk was going to be a Steeler. I mean, we hovered around that forever, and it almost got to be laughable. Oh, okay, let's talk about Ayuk more. But I think that was pretty real,
Yeah. Their interest was real.
Yeah. I mean, I think Christian Kirk would have been a Steeler, but he got hurt at the wrong time. Some of it's bad luck.
Yeah. And I know yesterday you said when we did the mock draft, well, maybe they've signed Christian Kirk. Well, first of all, Christian Kirk's not a free agent.
Oh, isn't he? Okay.
No, they would have to cut him.
He must have a bad deal or what? Maybe not.
He's making a lot of money, and they really weren't using. That's why they were going to trade him.
Yeah.
Because
Thomas was coming on strong.
Yeah.
Okay, so he may not even hit the market.
Yeah, maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. Mm-hmm. And he's coming off a major injury now.
Right.
So.
The free agent receiver crop isn't as good as it usually is.
It's not great.
No.
It's not great.
It's top heavy. And there are dudes like Adams that'll get cut.
Yeah.
I think there's guys you can trade for. Kupp, Metcalf. Do you want to?
Right.
Tyreek. And then there's some dudes that a year ago had a lot better stock than they do now. They're hitting free agency, like a Diggs or an Amari Cooper. I don't know if those are your answers.
Yeah, you're kind of rolling the dice there on some guys who, quite frankly, are
probably
Mike Williams like.
Yeah, exactly. They'll probably sign a 1-year deal, prove it that might fall off a cliff, or they might come back. You trust Amari Cooper or Kupp?
The Jets took a flyer last year, a $10 million flyer on Mike Williams that he would be fine coming back off the knee injury.
Mm-hmm.
And it took him some time.
Yeah. And then when Adams showed up, he was really pushed down the chart there. Right.
Rodgers wants to throw to his guys.
Mm-hmm.
So you got, obviously, T. Higgins.
Right.
Chris Godwin, who's, again...
Both of whom would be wonderful, but you're going to be fighting a lot of teams for him.
Godwin's coming off a pretty serious injury as well.
Exactly.
Great
year, inside, outside, versatile, but
that wasn't
he's coming
just
off an injury.
It wasn't just a broken ankle. It was a dislocated broken ankle. That's...
Yeah, more than. Just stick a cast on it in 6 weeks, you're fine.
Yeah. You got Amari Cooper, who's now 30.
He's bouncing around like crazy and hardly playing for the Bills at this point.
Stephon Diggs, who you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
DeAndre Hopkins. They could have gotten him at the trade deadline. They obviously showed not a lot of interest there.
I don't think his stock's gone up since the Chiefs grabbed him.
Not really.
He doesn't get. He's got. It's a side note. It's a bit of a theme here that a lot of these guys, except for Devontae Adams, that got traded at the deadline, including Williams, aren't being used all that much.
Yeah.
It's hard for receivers. That goes back to the Wilson conversation to get on moving trains.
Well, somebody asked me that, a question regarding something like that in the message or in the comments on YouTube. And, I said, look, it's easier for veteran. There are certain positions that allow you to jump on a quote-unquote moving train easier. Running back.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of the defensive positions.
I'd say most of the defense. Yeah.
Because you're just asked to do a job. If you're part of the passing game, that's a little different.
It's a little different.
If you're an offensive lineman, okay, you got to, if you're a tackle, you got to deal with the guy who's next to you and know that kind of stuff.
And those guys don't get moved around very much.
Not very much.
Yeah.
So you're just blocking the guy in front of you. But if you're part of the passing game, that's tough.
How do I break my route off? Do I read this coverage the same? Because the other thing too is, okay, you blow a block, it's a sack, and that's terrible. If I blow a route, it's an interception and maybe a pick six, and that's worse.
That's terrible.
That's
worse.
Really bad.
Quarterbacks don't like that. Offensive coordinators don't like that. Head coaches really don't like it.
Yeah. And it doesn't help you to win.
No, it does not help you to win. So that's the thing. And if you're a veteran guy, you might be able to, okay, the terminology, I know what I need to do, but the terminology is a little bit different.
I mean, I'm sure Adams and Rogers had no problem. They just go back to falling in lockstep, and Adams was staying at his house, and I'm sure they're talking routes all the time. But these other guys didn't really make an impact, and their snap counts are a lot lower than you think. Amari, Hopkins, et cetera, right?
It's the same thing with Roman Wilson was even farther behind
right.
on that because he'd never done any of it before. So, you have to understand that doing that at midseason doesn't always necessarily work out. Marquise Brown is going to be a free agent. We didn't get to see a lot of him this year.
I think he's a good player. I just don't want any more small guys.
Yeah.
I really do think Wilson and Austin are keepers are definitely going to be in the mix. They're going to be on the roster.
Darius Slayton's going to be out there.
It's not bad. He would have been a fine trade target too, and maybe throw a year on there. These aren't, and we get to the point now where they're not huge difference makers, but they're better than what you got type of guys.
And people might look at, Darius Slayton. He had 4 seasons of at least 700 receiving yards and 15 yards per catch over his first 5 years with the Giants.
Right, in bad situation.
And with bad quarterback play. Keenan Allen's going to be out there. That doesn't excite me. I mean, he's another slot receiver.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's probably better at this stage of his career than Hopkins or maybe Amari, but he's only a slot.
Yeah. Deontay Johnson, that's not going to happen.
Don't know who's going to sign him.
And then these are Pro Football Focus's rankings. The number 10 guy is Mike Williams. So
getting into that situation, right? Now there's plenty to trade for.
Right.
I mean, we could go through every team and find.
And there'll be some guys cut.
Like, Adams.
Adams isn't on this list.
But there's a lot of teams that are receiver needy too.
Right now.
And this draft's not as great.
It's not. And so you get
It'd be a tough year to trade Pickens. And still get better in that room.
Yeah. And get better. That's the key.
Right.
How do you get better? Well, I don't know that trading Pickens makes you better.
What makes you better is you roll with what you got and you draft the Ohio State kid in the first round. Now there might be more to that though. I mean, there's a reason that he's being thrown out there as a trade candidate.
Yeah.
I mean, something like that is how you get better. Or you sign Devontae Adams but that's not going to be easy.
No.
You can't just count on that.
But what I don't expect is for them to I think you're going to see a lot of turnover in that room like you saw coming from the previous season where, again, you had Pickens. By the time the season rolled around, you had Pickens and Austin where you're only 2 holdovers.
Yeah.
And everybody else was new. I'd be interested in bringing Skoranek back.
But Jefferson and Miller are probably last-minute calls if somebody gets hurt. They're still out there types. Right.
Guys you take to camp and see they're not guaranteed a spot.
Yeah. I mean, if Austin were to get hurt, you call one of them up or whatever. But,
they're depth pieces.
I don't think they make you better.
No.
Clearly.
Yeah. That's kind of where the room is at right now. And you got to be better there.
Yeah. I mean, now you could hit on a second-round pick or a third-round pick too. And the more homework I've done on this receiver class, I'm warming up to it more. It's not like it's terrible.
There's some non-first-round guys there that are interesting.
Yeah.
But the rest of the league needs those guys too.
Oh yeah, they're going to get scooped up.
That's the thing about the draft. We've talked about that. You can love a guy to death, but you just don't get him.
No guarantee, and it's not a super deep class from what I've seen so far.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get to a break. He is the Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. Matt and I will be back with more right after this. Welcome back to The Drive. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And Matt, there's a chance that one of the teams that has never won a Super Bowl might get a chance to win one if they win this weekend. That would be the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, and they got a good shot. They got a really good football team with a great quarterback, and I think it's going to be a close game in Kansas City, to say the least.
So there are still 12 franchises who have never won a Super Bowl.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty crazy. And they're all
out of 32 teams.
Right,
32 teams.
Right.
20 have won Super Bowls.
It's pretty crazy. Are the other leagues that heavy?
No.
It can't be.
No.
It can't be.
So you got the Bills, the Browns, the Chargers, the Jaguars, the Lions, the Texans, the Vikings, the Cardinals, the Falcons, the Panthers, the Bengals, and the Titans have never won the Super Bowl. Now, some of them have obviously been to Super Bowls.
Right.
The Bills have been there. The Chargers have been there. The Vikings have been there. The Cardinals have been there. The Panthers, the Bengals, and the Titans.
So I was just using my fingers for math here, counting to 3 real hard. I think there's only 3 of those teams that weren't in the league at the merger. Panthers, Texans, Jags. Now the Browns have come and gone.
Yeah. But what they did before that.
I mean, they had plenty of chances.
Yeah.
The Titans were the Oilers.
Yeah.
So they've been around since, 70? And all those teams except for 3, and they're not even all that new. Texans, and especially Panthers and Jags, have had a lot of years to do it. Is that good for the league, bad for the league?
I kind of think it's bad for the league.
I kind of do too. Like, I was rooting for a Lions-Bills Super Bowl once the Steelers were eliminated, because then one of those teams will get it. Awesome fan bases. They deserve it. Say what you want about the Browns, but that's a dedicated fan base. They've been behind their team for a long time. They're not wearing bags of their heads and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. It's just
a third of the league has not won a Super Bowl.
The Saints have won one.
Yeah,
that's the crazy. Like when I was,
they were the
in the
bottom,
80s.
Bottom. Right.
I mean, it was the Aints.
Mm-hmm.
Now they won one.
Yeah,
but they won one.
They won one, right? I wonder what the other leagues are like comparatively. I mean, like NBA, NHL, MLB.
Well, let me see here.
I bet there's not nearly the percentage. I mean, that's
and
over.
The NBA is a little different because they have so many expansion teams in recent years.
Okay, yeah, I guess there will be a couple that just haven't had many years to do it. And some of these leagues go way back before 1970, too. I mean,
so in the NBA, there are 10 active franchises
that have not.
The Nets, now they've been around but they were an ABA team before that, so that was the 70s. The Charlotte Hornets, a new team. The Pacers, another
they've been around
ABA
my whole
team.
lifetime.
That's another ABA team.
Okay.
The Clippers.
Okay. I don't know any of the history of these guys.
The Memphis Grizzlies, they're an expansion team. The Minnesota Timberwolves, expansion team. The Pelicans, expansion team.
Mm-hmm.
The Orlando Magic.
Reasonable, maybe in my lifetime.
The Phoenix Suns and the Utah Jazz. Again, 2 old ABA.
But there aren't many initial teams.
No.
And in baseball, there'll be none. Hockey, there'll be none.
And when you think of the NBA, you think, Lakers and Celtics. They've won. They've won a bunch of these. Well, the other teams have all gotten there.
Right. At least they've gotten there and won one. I'm sure baseball will be way different because this goes back 150 years now. Hockey, there were 6 teams to start. I'm sure all those have won a cup.
So the 5 Major League Baseball teams who have not won the World Series are the Colorado Rockies.
Reasonably new, yeah.
The Milwaukee Brewers. Now, they've been around
my whole life.
And longer than that.
Yeah.
The Padres.
Also been around a long time.
The Seattle Mariners, who were...
I think they were like around when the Seahawks came around, right?
Well, they've been around even longer than that.
Are they?
Yeah. And the Tampa Bay Rays, another expansion team.
And that's a newish team.
Yeah.
I guess that doesn't surprise me, but still, it's not a third of the league.
It's not a third, yeah. And, hockey's...
I don't know all the histories of some of these
teams. I don't consider
too.
hockey quite on the level as those 3 sports.
I don't either.
I know some people do, but it's a niche sport. It really is. that have not won the Stanley Cup. You're looking at 10. Vancouver, Buffalo, Ottawa, San Jose, Nashville, Columbus, Minnesota, Seattle.
A lot of new teams.
A lot of new teams.
I mean, those first two were been around my whole life when I was a kid and knew what I was talking about.
Yeah.
But, that adds up.
But the Browns have been around forever.
Lions.
And pre-Super Bowl, the Browns were the premier franchise. In the 50s, the Browns were the top franchise in the league.
Lions had a stretch pre-Super Bowl.
Yeah.
You know, there's some of the teams that haven't made it. So that shocks me. It's only 3 of the teams that 3 of the 12 were not there during the Super Bowl or in 1970.
Yeah,
and they're not that old.
They're not. This is
Panthers at least went. Jags have never been. Texans have never been.
The Browns have never been there.
Yeah.
The Jags have never been there. The Lions have never been there. The Texans haven't been there. And that's it.
Everyone else is gone.
Everybody else is at least gone to a Super Bowl.
Any of them multiple times? Well, Buffalo's gone.
Buffalo, Minnesota.
Minnesota's gone.
Cincinnati has gone to multiple.
Yeah. They've all gone to more than 2, too. I mean, quite a few.
So there's that hope. Is it better to have gone there and not won?
Yeah.
Than to have never gotten there?
Most athletes I think, but I don't think the same way they do, the hardest loss of the year is losing this weekend. At least you get the Super Bowl hype. You get the 2 weeks. I don't know about other sports, but just coaches and players I've been around, when you lose the championship round and don't get the opportunity to go to the final game is the hardest one. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but that's the impression I've gotten.
I bring this up. Josh Allen, I believe, has played 13 postseason games.
I would buy that.
It's the most by anybody in NFL history, most by a quarterback in NFL history, without
even getting to the game.
Without getting to that game.
Okay.
Without getting to the Super Bowl.
Tarkenton and Kelly and those guys.
They got there.
They got there, right. The guys that went multiple times. Huh. I don't think, I'm sure Lamar's not going to be that far off either.
He is.
He's only played 8.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's got a while to go yet.
Yeah.
I don't know. Other than the Bills this year, is anybody knocking on the door? Lions, I guess, still. You project any of the ones of the 12 that have a chance next year if they don't go this year? I mean, Buffalo, Lions, maybe the Bengals. I mean, I'm stretching, but they had a long way to go.
Yeah.
I mean, these teams aren't great right now either.
Yeah. I mean, so that's kind of the point of the conversation is it's not as easy to get there win, I think, as some people seem to think. And I understand the Steelers have won 6 of them.
Oh, I know.
And they've been to more than that, obviously. But you hear a lot of fans, we deserve a Super Bowl.
You don't deserve anything.
And it's not like the team isn't trying to get to the Super Bowl.
Sure.
All these other teams, you tell me the Bills aren't trying to win the Super Bowl?
I'd say, would you rather be a Bills fan or a Browns fan? Bills. I mean,
they've at least gotten there.
Right. I mean, in 4 years in a row, no one's had more heartbreak than the Bills. I mean, you lost that 13-second game. You go to 4 in a row and you get none. I mean, that's really rough. And they've been knocking on the door a long time. Do they deserve one? Nobody deserves anything. I mean, you're not come out of the womb deserve to a team that goes to the Super Bowl.
It is season-ending press conference. Mike Tomlin spelled that out well when he talked about what his team deserved.
Mm-hmm.
We deserved what we got.
Deserve what we got, right?
Because we didn't
make more plays. Right?
We didn't play well enough to win that game. We deserved what we got.
Don't fumble. Don't miss a kick. Don't throw an interception. Don't get blocked. Don't miss a tackle. Beat the Chiefs. Yeah, I mean a lot of these teams. If the Bills don't go, well, beat the Chiefs.
The Bills just a few years ago were up. They scored their go-ahead touchdown with 13 seconds left.
Yeah.
And gave up a touchdown.
I mean, it's as much of a heartbreaker as much of a heartbreaker
really
as there's ever
do.
been. Right. I mean, and that.
Forget about the drive.
Yeah, right.
That's just
we got this thing locked up. No, you don't.
No, you don't.
Right. So, are you rooting? Do you care? I know everyone's rooting against the Chiefs. I personally don't care, but I'm not. I wouldn't mind Bills Mafia to get one.
I don't. It doesn't bother me one way or the other who wins it.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, it's okay. Somebody's going to change the history of their franchise one way or the other.
Yeah.
Do I want to see Kansas City win 3 in a row? That hasn't been done.
We've seen a lot of them in the Super Bowl, and it's redundant.
I think a lot of people are just sick of them.
They are. I know. It's funny. I was listening to a podcast on the way here, and they're not even an unlikable team. It's just you see so much of them. I mean, like Andy Reid's doing Fumblerooski chef stuff. I mean, he's just a fun guy. I'd love to have a burger and a beer with him right now. And I know Mahomes dogs it here, or embellishes things, but he's easy to root for. He's a fun player. Kelsey's
he's got some habits that I hate,
and people seem to hate him all of a sudden. I think it's more just because he's so good. Jealousy will get you nowhere.
Some of the things that I don't like are the embellishing, which he admitted this week that I probably shouldn't have done that.
Lamar and Allen get away with a lot too.
They do.
No one seems to lump them in the same way.
The thing that drives me nuts about, like, if the other team gets a penalty and he starts with the fingers, come on, man. You get enough calls, and we don't need to do that.
I just don't think they're an unlikable team. Like, Patriots were pretty unlikable when Belichick wasn't on ads doing Bundle-Rooski stuff.
No, he was not. He was not. So we used to do conference calls with the visiting coaches back in the day. They would have the a little speakerphone there, and you could.
That doesn't happen anymore.
No,
I guess it doesn't. Yeah.
No, you could ask the opposing coach questions from the media, and I can always
coaches didn't like it. You're right.
I can always just remember Belichick when you'd get him on a conference call. And you'd start asking questions, and you'd hear papers rustling in the background. Like he had no desire at all to be doing this. He's
like paying the bills or whatever.
Yeah,
at
whatever.
the same time, or doing his taxes or something. Right?
Looking at the scouting reports
of course,
from the
really doing, right.
the practices that they illegally taped and things of that nature.
Exactly.
Yeah, just
it's
wanted
not
nothing
even
to
a
do with
priority at all.
Yeah. And that goes back all the way back to his Cleveland days. Like it was not fun.
Right.
And
he's more fun in the media.
Yeah,
I mean, he's actually
you actually see some personality now.
People that know him say he's hilarious.
Some of the guys when you would get them on those conference calls would be great, and I would always make it a point.
And they're like kind and courteous.
Yeah,
yeah.
You could also then go look at the conference call from your head coach that he had with the visiting media.
Sure.
And sometimes you would learn more there than you did from.
I'm sure he treated the visiting media differently. He did his Monday press conference or whatever, or Tuesday press conference. You're right.
And you might actually find some things out that he wouldn't answer, or you'd find maybe somebody in another market had a question about something in his background, and because he played there or knew this
went
coach or whatever. So you'd learn some stuff through that.
And him or buddies or who knows, right?
So I mean, I understand the not likability of the Patriots. Tom Brady's not a super likable dude,
especially when it's business,
yeah.
and I mean, they were a pretty buttoned up organization. Yeah. But the Chiefs aren't. I mean, the Chiefs they're just sick of. I think people are just sick of them
to a degree.
I think 7 straight championships.
You always want something new.
Yeah.
But I just think it's going to be interesting this weekend if the Bills can win. There's never been a situation where two quarterbacks have played each other in the playoffs 4 times,
and it's been 4-0.
And it's been 4-0.
Right
now it's 3-0 in favor of Mahomes, and they're 4-4 against each other.
Period. He wins in the regular season, doesn't win the postseason.
Yeah,
it's almost always in Kansas City.
I
think one of them is in Buffalo, right?
That
I should know that, and I don't.
Yeah, that I don't.
I wonder what Manning's first 4 playoff games against Brady were.
He must have won one of them because they played 5 times.
They played 5.
Yeah,
and it was all
that's the most.
Okay,
and
because I just know, like in this when Manning was like Lamar Allen's age, he can't win the big one.
That was the
he can't win.
He's good, but
he's a loser.
He can't win the big one.
Can't win the big one. He didn't beat the Patriots, but yeah,
a lot of other people.
Right.
I mean that's just kind of the way it goes when you've got these kind of dynastic things going on.
Oh yeah.
In the AFC, basically every year since 2011, 2012, somewhere in there, it's been
a monopoly.
It's been the Patriots. It's been the Chiefs. One of those 2 teams has been in the AFC Championship every single year.
Yeah, like you can't tell me again. I don't know basketball as well that Patrick Ewing wasn't capable of winning a title, or someone that was in the East during the Jordan era. Right? I mean, someone in the East with the Jordan era wasn't in good shape to win championships.
Yeah,
and AFC's as nasty, if not nastier, because the other competitors are brutal.
Yeah, it's been a rough go,
Mm-hmm.
and I think you have to build. Part of the
it bothers me that people say Ben only won 2. He won 2. Rodgers has 1. Breeze, to your point, has 1. These are equal.
A lot of great quarterbacks got 1.
Right.
Some of them didn't get any. Dan Marino never won
right.
any.
If you just during the Patriot era and beyond, Patriot Chief era, how many have 2 that aren't named Brady or Mahomes? I think it's just Ben.
They've monopolized.
Yeah, right. I mean, again, Rodgers should have more than 1. Yeah, he should, but that doesn't mean you should take one off Brady.
If you look at it even more than that, if you go from the Favre-Rodgers era for the Green Bay Packers, which is even longer, they won 2.
They won 2.
With 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks.
Right. I guess Manning has multiple.
Yeah.
Both Mannings do, I guess.
Yeah.
But I don't put Eli on the same chart, but I'm just trying to think who has multiple rings other than Brady and Mahomes.
There's only like 12.
Really the last.
There's only like 12 guys who have multiple rings.
Period.
Yeah. At the quarterback position.
Bradshaw, Staubach. I mean, going back, right?
It's not easy.
No, right. And there were fewer teams back then too.
Yeah, and you didn't have to deal with free agency.
Yeah, I mean, I always get a kick out of it. Like if you were the 1977 Steelers first round pick, you may not even see the field. Like who are you knocking out of a starting spot, let alone even a backup spot?
Yeah.
You're 30th pick in the draft or whatever. Man, you may not even play.
Look at Donnie Shell's career.
Yeah.
It took Shell several years to finally become a regular.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with like Swan and Stallworth. Their first few years.
Yeah, they were early picks. Right?
Yeah. Same thing with Bradshaw. It took him 4 years.
Never gets out of the way. Never leaves in free agency. Right.
You got to earn your stripes first.
Mm-hmm. Same with Cowboys and Raiders and Dolphins of that era too. I mean, that's a big reason those teams were so strong for so long.
Yeah. This is different though. You'd think that 12 teams haven't won the Super Bowl.
I bet Goodell doesn't love that. The league offices don't love that.
Probably not. I mean,
you'd like to spread the wealth a little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah. I mean, the Chiefs are obviously a very good marketing tool. They demand eyes. Taylor Swift doesn't hurt. But would they be happier with the Browns in there?
I don't
know.
It goes to show, though, to a degree, just how much of a quarterback-driven league it is.
That was actually my next question topic is, it's great to have Bradshaw or Staubach, but it was just as great to not lose Lambert, Ham, Green, Swan, Stallworth, et cetera, that you would have lost. I mean, they lost Tyreek, they lost Diggs, they lost,
But you kept the quarterback.
Do you think the quarterback's more important now than then?
I think he is.
I think it is. I think it just shows. I mean, Brady had a lot of different teammates. I mean, he didn't have Moss that whole time.
Well, when I was in the Hall of Fame voter meeting in 2019 now it was, and Richard Seymour was up.
Yeah.
And the person who was presenting Richard Seymour was talking about that early Patriots run when they won their first 3.
Basically the first
in
dynasty.
4 years.
Yeah,
the first part
2 different dynasties, right.
And he said, right now Ty Law is in.
Mm-hmm.
We know Belichick's getting in. We know Brady's going to get in.
Right. These are pre-Gronk.
Yeah. But no other Patriots from that era of winning 3 and 4 years is in the Hall of Fame.
The Brewskis and Vrabels.
Yeah.
And
So what you're telling me then is that it was Brady and Belichick and a bunch of slappies who won the Super Bowl.
I get that argument, but that doesn't mean any of those dudes were the best players at their respective positions either.
Yeah.
I mean, they contributed to Super Bowls, and I think the sum was greater than the parts or whatever.
But you see other teams that, for example, the Buccaneers team from early, they got like 5 guys from one team. They won 1 Super Bowl.
I know. Like, I didn't think Barber should go or Lynch should go, but Sapp and Brooks were pretty easy ones for me. They were the best at what they did. But, I think Lynch and Barber are only in because that 1 year.
Yeah.
And it was a great defense, but it wasn't steel curtain over 6 years, that type of thing.
Yeah. So, anyways,
it's just
interesting topic.
Some of this legacy stuff this time of year.
See if the Bills can break through the glass ceiling here.
Maybe they can drop it to 11. Still more than third of the league. Right. Yeah.
It's still more than any other league.
Right.
Yeah. So just interesting. Let's get to a break. He is the Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. Matt and I will be back with more right after this. And we are back. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And Matt, we got some hirings and firings going
lots
on
of
today.
going on.
Liam Cohen has changed his mind, and now
did
that
a 180.
Trent Baalke is no longer with the Jaguars, and said, you know what? On second thought, I'll take that job.
Yeah, obviously that's the impediment, and maybe it was a little too late, but I give the Khan family for recognizing it. This is the guy we wanted. Maybe people don't want to work with Baalke.
Cohen obviously must have just said that to him, like, "Hey, I can't work in. I'd love to come, but I can't work in that situation with that guy, and you're probably going to fire him or move on from him at some point. Yeah. I'd rather just be now, and then I know who my boss is going to be moving forward.
Or I can help with hiring the general manager as well. You know, from what I understand too. The Bucs, I guess he told the Bucs, I'll gladly sign that huge contract they were going to give him unless I interview twice with the Jags. Unless they call me back. And they called him back.
They called him back.
I think they put all their cards on the table.
Well, I mean, the Baalke firing came really quick after his
second he left the building.
Yeah, okay. Why
don't you don't even get on the plane?
We got to do this,
back.
yeah.
Right. So they got their guy, and it seems like a good move. We'll see.
The Texans fired offensive coordinator Bobby Slowick. Now, remember,
1 year ago he was a hot name.
1 year ago he was the hot name. 2 years ago, you had I can't think of his name now. Lou Anarumo was a name that people he's going to get a head coaching job.
Yeah.
2 years later, they're both fired.
You wonder how many coaches that have gotten hired, if they had gone back to their same situation, would have crashed and burned as a coordinator. Slowick had to get let go. I know that they had injuries, and everyone's going to blame the O-line, but their blitz pickup and pass protection stuff is all – every one of their linemen had their worst year of their career. It doesn't speak well to the
They fired the offensive line coach as well, but they also got rid of Slowick.
They had 4 O-line coaches. They're one of those teams that have 1 million coaches, which I don't understand.
Too many cooks in the kitchen.
I agree. I'm not sure that's the root of the problem, but they couldn't pick up a blitz to save their life all year.
And that's like so.
And don't tell me because Dell and Diggs are hurt.
The Falcons hired Mike Rutenberg, and I don't know Mike Rutenberg as defensive pass game coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
Do you need a defensive pass game coordinator?
I don't even know what's their all these guys have their jobs throughout the week. What do all these dudes do Wednesday at 4:00, Monday at 2:30? Everyone have to have this done by this so we can go to build the game plan, etc. Not to mention, I was always interested / jealous. Most of the time, if you walk in, at least the Pitt Panther organization when I was there, game week in the middle of the day, unless practice is going on, it's quiet. There's me and 2 other people maybe roaming the halls, and I'm watching tape because all the defensive staff's in one room, and they're all chewing and scratching and spitting and smelling, and the whole group of offensive guys are in the other room. And there was only 6 in each room, and they all had a big say, and everybody would speak up, and of course the coordinators carried more weight. But they sat there as buds, and they watched the game. They broke down Rutgers or whatever.
Came up with ideas on how they wanted to attack.
If there's 16 people in that room, though, it's
too many.
Totally different world, right?
And that's so. A lot of times the Steelers get criticized because they have one of the smaller coaching staffs in the NFL. And I would always go and look when people would come up with that criticism, look around the league. And I can remember looking one year. There was actually a team that had fewer. There were a couple of teams that had fewer, but one of the teams that did have fewer coaches than the Steelers was the New England Patriots.
Yeah. I know that Belichick does not approve of huge staffs. He doesn't need assistant.
I don't need 25 voices in the room. And there were
Do
teams.
Your job. This is your job.
I went through and counted, for example, the Rams staff at that point had 27 coaches. That's one for every 2 players.
Yeah.
On your roster.
Yeah. An assistant O-line coach, fine. Maybe 3 defensive back coaches, corners and safeties, and maybe, but I don't think you need all these guys. What all they do? Now, it's funny. I did a mailbag episode of my DK podcast this week, and one of the questions was, do the Steelers need to hire more people? And I said, no, I think their system works just fine. History shows that. I would not object if they wanted to go get an older gentleman that has been around the league, that has never done anything with the organization, and this isn't even a Steelers-specific thing, Go get somebody that has never made a dollar from the Steelers as a player, a coach. He's never been inside those walls, but he's had great success on either side of the ball, and he's just a senior consultant. And when he walks in the door, everyone knows who he is. Maybe he's got a ring on his finger, and people would just listen. Boy, you guys have been picking up the splits the same way for 20 years. Try this. I hadn't thought of that. We've been doing the same thing. I think that's good for any walk of life. But that doesn't mean you need 6 defensive back coaches or 4 O-line coaches that can't pick up a blitz.
Or a pass game coordinator.
Right,
right. What does the pass game coordinator – I don't know.
Some of the titles get real weird.
Defensive pass game, not even the offensive pass game.
Yeah.
Why isn't he your defensive backs coach?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know some teams will break up run and pass coordinators. One of them's the play caller, but one of them installs all the run stuff. One of them installs all the pass stuff.
Well, that's so
different.
For the Steelers, they had your offensive coordinator typically handles your pass game stuff, and a lot of times your offensive line coach handles the run. Like,
running
he's
back
the one
coach
who has
and
to,
line coach.
Yeah,
right.
He's the one that has to deal with. Okay, here's how we're going to block this up.
Yeah, don't ask my guys to do things they can't do.
Right.
Right.
Because again, when you get too many cooks in the kitchen,
it gets.
Well, I want this ingredient. Well, we can't do that. We don't have that ingredient.
Right.
Well, but I want this.
Yeah.
That's not how this is going to work.
It's like the Merrill Hodge story. He goes to Chicago and they talk about, well, how'd you run this run? Well, we had Dermonti Poole, and they're like, whoa. I can't do that.
Well, then you can't run the ball like the Steelers.
Then you got a problem, right?
You got a problem.
Dermonti Dawson.
Yeah.
Make a trade for Dermonti Dawson. We'll talk. But I like the Pete Carroll hiring.
Yeah, Pete Carroll hired by the Raiders.
I'm a fan.
73 years old. He'll be the oldest coach in NFL history.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I just think that I have such respect for Al Davis's mark on the league, but his last 10, 15 years were really, really bad, and nobody ever told him no. And I think that might be happening in New England and Dallas right now, and I don't think his son took it up a notch. And I think this year you get Brady involved and you get Carroll involved. They have a lot of wins between the two of them, and maybe you just step back and say, I recognize that we haven't been doing this well as ownership for decades now. You two go hire young people and quarterbacks and things like that to help
change the culture.
Kind of like Washington did.
Yeah,
we'll see.
See if it works. See if again, it's interesting though that you bring in an old guy to change the culture.
I know.
Because all I hear is, well, that's the old thinking of the NFL. Or you're looking at the, when I talk about analytics, you're a dinosaur. You're looking at this. No, there are ways, proven ways that things have happened in the NFL that don't go away.
We've talked about some trends of these teams that are still alive. Don't turn the ball over.
Running the ball and playing defense still matters in the NFL.
Yeah, and turnovers and not beating yourself and the kicking game and the finer points of it, blocking and tackling and Chuck Noll stuff.
That stuff is never going to change in the NFL.
That's never going to change. I mean, the other fluff will change.
Which brings me back around to the Bobby Slowicks of the league. They're the hot new this is a hot new name, and now he's out of a job.
Yeah, now he's out of a job. I mean, he'll be a quarterback's coach or something.
Ben Johnson just got hired by the Chicago Bears, and goes into his in his press conference and starts talking about we've got 3 teams that made the playoffs in our division. Well, guess what, Ben? Your team, this team that you're now the head of, wasn't one of them. In 3 years from now, if that's still the case, you're not going to be here either.
No, and that's one of the things about Jacksonville. I at least give them some credit with the cons. Now, what's his face aside, the former Ohio State coach that's on TV now.
That was a big mistake.
But they're at least pretty patient with their dudes. I think they'll give Cohen a couple years because there's been a lot of bad years in Jacksonville, but they're not super reactive in terms of, okay, we at least have a plan. That hasn't always worked.
Yeah.
I'm really interested with what Carroll hires. Does he hire a name that, wink, wink, might be my successor in a year or two? How much longer is he?
He's got a 3-year contract with a team option for the 4th.
Okay.
So
I can't imagine he's going to be here in 2027 or 28, though. He's got a lot of energy.
He's a pretty spry dude.
He is.
So we'll see how that works out. But, you got some young guys coming in. You got some old guys coming in.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean either team is right or wrong, but when you hire a guy who's been there like that and had success, at least you have a better idea of okay, when he gets into a situation where we're down 4 points here late in the game
Mm-hmm.
with 4 minutes left. He's okay. Does he kick a field goal or does he go for it's 4th and 8 here?
Yeah,
we go for the touchdown. He's been in those situations before.
Mm-hmm.
And
I
he's
think
not
that goes
just
a
the
long way.
offensive coordinator going, well, in this situation, I don't know if our defense can stop him or not.
Oh, there's a lot
The
of
Pete Carrolls of the world have done
Yes, yeah.
all that stuff.
I say that all the time. There's a lot of coordinators masquerading as head coaches right now, like Indianapolis. Do we know he's a good head coach? He's good offensive mind. That's why he was hired.
Yeah.
If he can't develop a quarterback, then what do I need you for? You
Right.
know? And I do believe there's probably 50 human beings walking the planet right now that truly know how to win in the NFL. And some of them are Bill Parcells and Jimmy Johnson that aren't interested in doing it anymore.
Or a
Joe
guy like-
Gibbs or
Tom Moore or someone like that who's
Right.
85 years old and serving as a consultant.
I mean, and Tomlin's one of them, by the way, folks, that understands the whole job of being an NFL head coach and can consistently win.
Yeah.
Sean Payton's one of them. Carroll's one of them. There's not as many as you think.
Yeah. Anyways, that's going to do it for hour number 1 of the drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. Matt and I will be back with hour number 2 right after this. Welcome back to hour number 2 of the drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. I'm Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson, and it is time now to put together our DFS lineup.
All right.
We've got 2 games to pick from. It gets a little tougher here.
It gets real tough.
The road is
I'm
narrow.
real curious what the prices are on some of these top dudes, like the Kelseys and those type of guys, right?
So looking at the defenses, the Eagles, 3,300.
I'm expecting a high-scoring game in Kansas City, especially in the second half and the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
So I
when
think
they
I'd
figured
prefer
things
to
out.
go to the NFC, but I don't think any of these options are wonderful.
The Chiefs are 3,100. The Bills are 2,900, and the Commanders are 2,700. If I had to play down a little bit, the Bills are going to get sacks.
Yeah. Tooney to left tackle has not worked out well. He's a guard.
He's a guard.
He's really a guard. And they got weaker at 2 spots. Bills have a good pass rush. It's not a dominant one. And Mahomes is good at not taking sacks and getting the ball out, but he'll also throw you one to the other team, too. I bet he has more interceptions than Allen does.
Yeah.
Everybody has more interceptions.
Yeah.
Allen doesn't take any sacks. I mean,
He doesn't take
I would
sacks.
not take the Chiefs.
I wouldn't take the Chiefs because
Right.
they don't sack he doesn't take sacks and he
Or
doesn't throw
turn the ball
interceptions.
over. Right. So that leaves you 3 teams, really. I'm cool with the Bills.
I don't want to play the Commanders.
I don't want to spend a lot of money on defenses.
No,
any of
that's the
them.
other thing.
Right.
Yeah, so I think you play
All
the
right,
Bills.
play the Bills.
Yeah. All right. At quarterback, you want to go quarterback or tight end?
Tight end.
All right, tight end.
Kelsey's going to be pricey.
Kelsey's 6,000.
Okay.
Goddard, 4,500.
Ooh, that's a pretty big gap.
Zach Ertz, 4,300. Dalton Kincaid, 3,600. The Chiefs are 29th against opposing tight ends. Noah Gray, 3,000.
So what's Noah Gray cost?
Dawson Knox is 2,600. Calcaterra, 2,500. I don't think we need to go
No.
further down than that.
If we're really going to cheap out on it, I think Noah Gray is going to play a lot. I mean, again, it's Bills are a nickel defense. We're going to come out with a lot of tight ends. Are you going to stay in nickel or are you going to go bring a big person in? We're going to make you decide and either play left-handed or be light. But I think Kelsey goes.
Yeah, I do too. Noah Gray had that stretch there where he was being pretty.
It's been a
But
desert lately.
The last month has not been kind to
No.
Noah Gray. He's one catch.
One game.
One
they played
catch in
with
3
Wentz.
straight games.
Yeah,
But,
I mean that Week 18 the game didn't count.
Yeah, he had a stretcher where he had 4 straight games with at least 4 catches.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the case anymore.
No, they're not saving Kelsey anymore.
No.
Clearly,
So
they
do you-
need to catch a touchdown.
So do you pay up for Kelsey in this situation?
I think so. Goddard's off the injury list, by the way.
Yeah.
I don't think they pass the ball very well. Period, though.
Ertz, though,
Ertz is useful.
I look at Ertz. He had 5 targets the last game. He caught a touchdown. Now it was 5 catches for 28 yards. But again, they look his way in the red zone. Last 5 games, he has 4 touchdowns.
You look at that Eagles defense. The spot teams are going to pick on is linebacker not named Dean. Because or not named Bond because Dean is out. And their safeties aren't wonderful. I have no idea what the Eagles are against tight ends. But
Well, I can tell you what Ertz did against them.
in 2 games, okay?
So the first time around in Philadelphia, they lost this game, but it was in Philly. 6 catches on 7 targets, 47 yards, and a touchdown.
That'd be well worth our money.
The second time around, he had one catch for 12 yards on 2 targets. Now, they won that game 36-33. It was more of a shootout. I don't think this is going to be a shootout.
There's a chance they're getting beat bad, though, and he gets garbage time yards.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know that that'll be true for the other 3 teams. I mean, if anyone's really trailing, throwing against prevents, I think it's Washington.
I think he's the pivot if you don't want to spend up. It's $4,300.
They're the only 2 options I'd even consider, to be
Yeah.
honest with you. I think Kelsey goes insane, but Ertz is real. Put Ertz in, and we can.
I think we go Ertz, and if we have
keep it in mind, right.
we got $1,700 that we don't want to spend. We can, because this build is going to be.
I mean, this quarterback situation, I'm not sure how I would rank their. Who's most expensive on down? I might just take the 4th one.
Allen is $7,500.
Okay.
Jaden Daniels $7,000. Hurts is $6,500, and Mahomes is $6,000.
I think I just take the cheapest.
So you want to go Mahomes?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, those other 3 are like the best 3 fantasy quarterbacks on the planet.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, if for Patrick Mahomes to be 4th, that's kind of the case.
Right. And those guys run and score touchdowns more than he does.
It's not like he's not going to score points, though.
No, and he runs a lot in the playoffs.
Yeah. At running back, Saquon Barkley is $8,600.
Yeah.
Cook is $6,900.
So there has to be a massive drop-off.
$1,700 difference right there.
Right there.
Brian Robinson is $5,600. Kareem Hunt, $5,400. Austin Eckler, $5,300. Isaiah Pacheco, $5,200. Kenneth Gainwell, $4,600. And I don't know if we need to go much farther down.
I don't like any of them. I mean, I love Barkley, but I'm just saying, like, there's not that.
Eckler as a pay down makes sense.
Eckler's my favorite because they could be losing, and he could be 3rd down back out there a lot in the second.
But Philadelphia is second against running backs.
That's also with Dean in the lineup for most of the year.
Now, he played.
Somewhere we have to go cheap.
He had 17.6 points at Philadelphia. He didn't play in the second game. But he had 17. They were losing that game, and he had 17.6 points. I think we got to put
him in the lineup.
You have to put him in the lineup.
Right. I mean, there's no one else you're super excited about, right? The Chiefs guys
No.
How about Bills not named Cook? I know they're down the list, but
Johnson is 4,400, and Ray Davis is 4,300.
Is he questionable?
No.
Okay.
I just want to look here because these 2 teams have played as well. When they played, James Cook, 9 for 20, but he caught 5 passes for 7 yards.
Okay.
He scored 2 touchdowns, though.
He scores a ton.
He had 19.7 points, and he had 27 total yards.
Let me ask you this, because I don't know that the receivers are going to be super. I mean, obviously more to pick from.
Yeah.
If you could only have Barkley or Kelsey, who would you rather have?
Barkley.
Me too.
Yeah.
I hate these running backs to pick from right now.
That's $8,600, though. We're going to have to.
Eckler's pretty cheap.
He's cheap, but right now we can average 6,300.
That's without Kelsey in the lineup.
Let's go to the receivers first and see that might help us make our choice.
Because I mean, the 2 AFC teams use so many receivers.
Yeah, A.J. Brown is 6,800.
I think McLaurin should be number 1.
McLaurin is 6,700. Devontae Smith is 5,800. Khalil Shakir 5,700.
I don't dislike that.
Xavier Worthy 5,500.
He's got a lot of targets lately.
Yeah, they're trying to.
They're not deep, surprisingly.
Yeah,
they're after the catch stuff.
Generate some offense with him.
They don't throw the ball. Neither one of these teams throws the ball deep anymore.
Hopkins is 4,700. Diami Brown 4,400.
He's the 2 on Washington.
Hollywood Brown 4,200. He got a shutout for us last week. Amari Cooper 4,100.
He already plays.
Zacchaeus is 3,900, but he is questionable. I think he's going to play though. Keon Coleman 3,700. Curtis Samuel 3,500.
We're going to have to get a receiver or 2 in that neighborhood.
Mac Hollins is 3,300.
Is there a Zacchaeus or a Chief or a Bill?
Juju Smith-Schuster 3,200. Jamison Crowder 3,100. Justin Watson 3,000.
You guys hardly play.
I know
they have to catch touchdown.
I mean the Saquon Barkley pay up makes sense because of these prices.
I know.
But you have to hit the right ones.
It's a tough week.
I kind of like Shakir
Yes. Of the guys you know are going to score points.
First time around against the Chiefs, he got 12 targets, had 8 catches for 70 yards.
That'd be worth it, I guess.
Yeah. For you're talking about 5,700? Absolutely.
I think he's like Eckler. Like, you just put him in.
Yeah.
We're going to have to take a shot on some Keon Coleman type.
Worthy last week ended up with 5 catches for 45 yards on 6 targets, 1 rushing attempt for -8. The first time around against Buffalo, 4 catches for 61 yards and a touchdown. Also had a carry for 7 yards.
They do manufacture touches.
They manufacture
for him now,
touches for him. Now, do they?
But he's a little pricier than his other jabronis too.
Well, he's 5,500.
Okay. I mean, I like him better than all the other Bills, all the Chiefs.
Now we can average 67, 66 for our final 3 spots. Okay.
That's without Barkley?
That's without Barkley. If we put you want to put Barkley in there now and see what we can...
And just see what the numbers turn out to be. I mean, that takes McLaurin off the table, I'm sure.
All right, so Barkley, then we can average 58.50. Okay, we can make that work. Devontae Smith is 5,800.
Oh, we can make that work then. What if we put McLaurin in and then just take a...
McLaurin's 6,700. That's going to be $1,000 basically over budget.
I'd much rather McLaurin than Smith, though.
Unless you still wanted to pivot from Zach Ertz to Kelsey.
What would we have? I know we're going to have to be it'll be a long shot type guy, but if we put McLaurin in the one spot,
what about Diami Brown?
If Zacchaeus isn't going to play, then I definitely like him. The secondary Washington receivers I don't dislike.
Yeah,
we already have Ertz though.
I mean, he's got 13 targets the last 2 games in the playoffs. Yeah, he's got 6 for 98 and 5 for 89 and a touchdown in the playoffs.
Do we know if Mitchell's playing?
No.
Yeah. I have no problem with Brown. Somewhere we got to go cheap.
He's 4,400.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Now we have
might get us Kelsey.
We have 7,300 for our flex. Well, there's not even a $7,300 player out there. So you want to go put Kelsey in at tight end, and that leaves us 5,600 then for the flex.
That doesn't get us close to McLaurin, I'm sure.
That gets us Brian Robinson, Kareem Hunt, Isaiah Pacheco, Hopkins, Kenneth Gainwell. Ugh.
What about one of the Chief running backs?
Gets us Kareem Hunt.
I know.
I mean, do you want Kareem Hunt or Pacheco?
No, there's most of these guys I don't want.
Yeah, I don't want to touch that.
Kelsey and Barkley make it tough. But if we go back to Ertz, does that get us McLaurin?
No.
What about Brian Robinson?
I'm just looking at any of those other receivers that we were talking about.
They're all the same to me. Although I kind of think Keon Coleman was the cheapest of the guys could catch a touchdown.
Yeah. I'm just looking here. Zacchaeus is 3,900. Keon Coleman's 3,700. Kincaid is 3,600. Curtis Samuel, 3,500. Mac Hollins, 3,300. Smith-Schuster,
I mean, you're just spinning the wheel hoping you're the guy that catches the touchdown.
You're hoping. Hope is not a good plan.
No.
What if we pivot off of Barkley? Now we can afford any running back.
And keep Kelsey.
And go with James Cook. Instead, now we can average we can get 7,300. That would get us.
Does that get us McLaurin?
That would get us McLaurin.
Of the top receivers, McLaurin's the one I want. I don't trust the Eagles' passing game at all. So what's that build look like?
We'd have 600 left over. That gets us Mahomes, Eckler, Cook, Shakir, Worthy, Diami Brown, Travis Kelce, Terry McLaurin, and the Bills' defense. We could actually, if we wanted to pivot.
What if we went up for Mahomes?
We could get Jalen Hurts.
You'd rather have Hurts, right? I mean,
he's got the knee issue, though. Is he going to push into the end zone?
I didn't want to spend for those 3. Where else could we save? Stick with Mahomes.
Do you like any of the other running backs beyond Cook, Robinson?
No.
Kareem Hunt, Isaiah Pacheco? You want to go cheap at the...
How could we get McLaurin in the lineup?
Well, McLaurin's in.
He's in now, right?
He's in right now, and we have $7,500 to spend on a running back. we would need another 1,100 to get back up to Barkley.
I'd almost just rather throw Barkley in there and take like Keon Coleman and hope he hits, even though he could get a 0.
All right, Barkley right now is in the flex at 5,600. We could get Brian Robinson.
Oh, he'll play.
Yeah,
I mean that's a lot better than Keon Coleman.
let me see what he did the last 2 times.
But both Washington running backs.
So he had 10 for 24 and had 2 catches for 17 yards. That was without Ekeler.
Mm-hmm.
With Ekeler, he had 16 for 63 and a touchdown, 1 catch for 9 yards, ended up with 14.2 points. That was in the game they lost.
I'm not seeing a great path to any of this, but we'd have
both Washington running backs in the game.
Right. But we'd also have Barkley, Kelsey, and McLaurin, right?
Yeah.
I think those are the home runs. I don't like having both Washington running backs, but I'd much rather have Robinson than.
They're going to get volume.
Yeah.
To some degree.
They at least play. They're better than the Keon Colemans and Hopkins and Amaris, where you're just hoping they.
Now, they could also blow up and, catch a couple of touchdowns. And
yeah, and you just pick the wrong one.
That's a hope.
Though, right.
Yeah, that's a hope. So that would be Mahomes, Ekeler, Robinson, Khalil Shakir, Xavier Worthy, Diami Brown, Kelsey, Barkley, and the Bills' defense. We're pretty.
I think that's the best one I've heard yet.
Washington-centric, though.
I know. And we don't have the quarterback.
And we don't have the quarterback who's the best of their.
Right. Who's the guy to own. And I don't think they're going to win. Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
And they're playing a good defense. I'd like to have more Chiefs-Bills. I think that's the higher scoring game.
So do you want to go to, instead of Robinson?
If we get away from one of those backs, either one.
You could go with like a Kenneth Gainwell.
I'd rather go receiver.
You're going to get the entire. I'm just trying to figure out a way that we can. So if we do that, take Barkley out and put him in at running back, $5,600 then at the flex, and you're looking at nothing that's great.
What's Kincaid done lately? I'm not saying get out of Kelsey, but if Kincaid was the flex, that would give us a lot of flexibility.
Let me look here. I did this wrong. So I'm put Barkley in at running back.
I know he's had a rough year.
And in the flex,
I think he's a good player.
And they're not good against tight ends. That's the other.
Yeah.
Kincaid, he is way down the list here.
I know he's super cheap.
3,600.
If he's our flex.
He had 1 catch for 11 yards on 2 targets last week. 3 catches for 47, 2 for 24, 4 for 15, 4 for 53. In the win over the Chiefs, he did not play.
Barkley's at running back. Robinson's out.
Yeah,
Kincaid at the flex. I would think we'd have some money to spend.
Oh, we've got $5,600 to spend here right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a matter of which guy you want to spend them. We could go with Zach Ertz in the flex, but again, we're getting. That's what we took. I don't hate that.
No, I wouldn't mind having Ertz in the lineup at all.
And that gets us an extra $1,300, which would then bump us up to having any of the. Well, that would get us Jaden Daniels.
I prefer him to Mahomes.
He's going to run.
Oh, yeah.
And now we only have 3.
But we don't have Barkley, right?
No, we do have Barkley.
Oh, okay.
So that now is Jaden Daniels, Austin Ekeler, Saquon Barkley, Khalil Shakir, Xavier Worthy, Diami Brown, Travis Kelce, Zach Ertz, and the Bills' defense.
That's our best build yet.
We're still heavy on the Washington side of things, but
the problem is the Chiefs and Bills receivers just spread it out too much.
We've got their pass catchers.
And I don't trust the Eagles' passing game. So
we don't have McLaurin,
but we got everyone else.
But we got everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody you want to pivot off of with Diami Brown, 4,700 will get us DeAndre Hopkins. That doesn't really do it for me. $300 up from the Bills' defense would get us the Chiefs' defense. But
No sacks, no picks.
Yeah, Allen
Right.
doesn't throw. He doesn't turn the ball over, and
No.
yeah, I think that's the build.
I think that's the build.
We just
There's a lot of guys I want to avoid.
eat to 300.
Mm-hmm. I'd love to get McLaurin in the lineup, but I don't think you can get Kelsey, Barkley, and McLaurin.
No.
I just don't think that's feasible.
Yeah, that's how they
I think
build
you
these
eat it,
things.
yeah.
All right, so that is Jaden Daniels at quarterback at 7,000, Austin Ekeler at running back at 5,300, Saquon Barkley at 8,600 at running back, Khalil Shakir at 5,700, Xavier Worthy at 5,500, Diami Brown at 4,400, Travis Kelce at 6,000, Zach Ertz at 4,300, and the Bills defense at 2,900.
I don't love it, but there's not much to pick from. That's a tough build, man.
It's tough.
Yeah, that's a tough build.
They know when they put these things together, their computer models say, well, there's no way that you're going to get – you can get the top guys that are –
But then you're throwing total long shots.
Yeah, everything else is just dart throws.
Yeah. I like this better. At least I think every one of those guys is going to be involved.
They're going to contribute some way, fashion, or form.
Like I was kind of leaning towards Keon Coleman, but he may play 6 snaps.
Yeah.
And get one target.
Ertz is going to get more targets.
Ertz will play,
yeah. All right. So that's our build for this week. We're going to take a break. He is the Matt Williamson, and I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. Matt and I'll be back with more right after this. Welcome back. I'm Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson, and Matt Miller on ESPN has released his list of the top 50 prospects going into the East-West Shrine game and the Senior Bowl, which the East-West Shrine game practices start this weekend, and then, of course, next week is the Senior Bowl. So lots of stuff starting to happen here. So looking here at his top 50.
Okay.
He's got Abdul Carter from Penn State, number 1 overall.
I'm starting to see that more and more. I mean, I don't know that he's Micah Parsons coming out of Penn State, but I don't know that there's an elite prospect in this draft. Maybe that's Hunter, if you're going to be in on both sides of the ball and all that comes with it. But I understand Carter. I mean, pass rushers are hard to come by.
Number 2 is Travis Hunter.
Okay. I understand that.
3 is Will Johnson, the cornerback out of Michigan.
Understandable.
4 is Mason Graham, the defensive tackle out of Michigan.
I don't love the top of this draft compared to other years, but not these guys are bad, but if these are the best you got, it's good.
5 is Jalen Walker, edge rusher out of Georgia.
That's maybe the highest I've seen him.
Still no quarterbacks.
Right. I don't think he positionally valued them.
6 is Ashton Genty, running back out of Boise State.
He definitely didn't, right.
7, Will Campbell, the offensive lineman out of LSU.
But that's crazy. You know, like, he's a great prospect, great tape, but he's 6'4", and he might not be a tackle, you know?
Yeah. Well, they list him at 6'6", 323.
I don't think he's going to be that.
Yeah. 8 is Calvin Banks Jr., the offensive tackle out of Texas.
Very similar.
He's 6'4".
Yeah. He's definitely shorter.
Yeah. 9 is Tyler Warren, tight end out of Penn State.
He keeps creeping up.
Now, when we drafted him earlier in the week, I think it was
at 21.
Monday, at 21, people went crazy.
Sure.
There have been no receivers taken thus far.
No, right.
In these rankings.
He's the best pass catcher in the draft.
Again, look at him as a pass catcher because that's how Penn State viewed him this year.
Yep.
Had 104 catches.
Yep.
104 catches for a tight end. I don't care if it's a wide receiver and you had 104 catches at the college level. When everybody knows you're getting the football, you're a pass catcher.
He had a bunch of carries, tush-push stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, he does a lot of stuff for you, yeah.
10 is Luther Burden, the wide receiver out of Missouri.
Wow, that's his top receiver. Okay.
11 is Tedoroa McMillan, the wide receiver out of Arizona.
Widely regarded as the best receiver.
So, again, he had Tyler Warren ranked just ahead of those guys.
Mm-hmm.
If he were a 6'6", 220-pound wide receiver and had a WR next to his name, people would be like, oh, he's, yeah.
Yeah, right.
But they see the TE and they go, oh, we got Pat Freiermuth.
Right.
Well, catches the ball.
Touches the ball, changes the game, creates mismatches.
12, Cam Ward, the quarterback out of Miami.
I understand that. He's got a lot of ability. Sounds like he's a really competitive guy, good leader, all that stuff too. But those are prerequisites.
Yeah.
Still has to work on touch and accuracy and things like that. But there's a lot to work with there.
13 is Malachi Starks, safety out of Georgia.
I don't see many negatives with that guy.
14, Josh Simmons, offensive tackle out of Ohio State.
It won't shock me one bit.
We talked about it earlier in the week.
Yeah, it won't shock me one bit if he's the first offensive lineman off the board.
15, Michael Williams, the edge rusher out of Georgia.
Okay.
16, Jahdae Barron, cornerback out of Texas.
He's someone we're going to talk a lot about at 21.
I like him a lot.
Yeah, I think he's similar to a Branch.
Yeah.
But with more outside corner capability. I'm not saying he's better than Branch, but I think he can do more in terms of just lining up outside the numbers. He's a glue guy.
He's
pretty useful.
He's not one of these little slots. He's not one of these guys that are,
right.
Well, he's 5'10 and 180 pounds. No, he's 5'11", 200 pounds.
I mean, he can line up with Andrews and Likely and those type of dudes too. Gesicki and,
Yeah. 17, Matthew Golden, wide receiver out of Texas.
He's another one I think we're going to talk a lot about at 21.
18, Josh Connerly, offensive tackle out of Oregon.
Really, really good athlete. Kind of like the Ohio State dude, Simmons. He's a pure tackle with great feet that's going to look great at the combine. Could he go ahead of Johnson and Banks? The tackle needy team? Yeah, that could be the future.
It's what we talked about when we were talking about the 50-year option stuff.
Mm-hmm.
If you take a guard or a center, an interior offensive lineman, in the first round of the draft, after 3 years, you're going to have to pay him like he's an offensive tackle.
Yeah. I mean, is Linderbaum worth tackle money?
Yeah.
That's a question the Ravens are fighting right now.
19, Colston Loveland, tight end, Michigan. 3 Michigan players in the top 19.
Not winning many
How
games.
the hell did they stink this year?
Right. I think they're going to have plenty of dudes drafted, too. Grant's not far behind.
Yeah.
Right.
20, Armand Membu, the offensive lineman out of Missouri. Now, he is a guard. He's 6'3". Yeah. And he's probably closer to 6'2".
And I know some people is he going to the Senior Bowl? I think so.
Yeah,
I think he's going to play some center down there, too.
His measurements down there are going to be crucial.
Mm-hmm.
If he comes in, again, they list him at 6'3".
Is he 6'0",
17"?
Right,
6 1 1/4 or something like that. Yeah. It's going to be huge.
But his ability to play center could be useful for him, too.
Derek Harmon, the defensive tackle out of Oregon, 21.
I have mixed feelings about him, but, I see the allure.
22 is Shedeur Sanders, the quarterback out of Colorado.
It's probably what he is as the prospect.
Yeah.
He's going to go way higher than that. We know that.
Absolutely, which means he's at 22. The Steelers are picking at 21.
And he'll be off the board.
Therefore, one of those other guys is getting pushed down.
Mm-hmm.
23, James Pierce, the edge rusher out of Tennessee.
Get it? A lot of good edge rushers in this class.
24, Carson Swessinger, linebacker out of UCLA.
I'm kind of late to the party on him. Linebackers I haven't paid a ton of attention to,
Yeah.
but everyone seems to think he's pretty much a surefire first rounder.
Yeah. Walk on, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Turned into something. 25, Emeka Egbuka, wide receiver,
I have
Ohio
no problem
State.
with him at 21.
Yeah. But there's other guys that I would rather have.
I don't know if he'd be in my top 21
Yeah.
right now, but I would certainly understand it.
26, Walter Nolan, defensive tackle out of Ole Miss.
He makes a lot of plays and has a lot of ability.
27, Nick Scourton, edge rusher. They list him as an edge. He's not 6'4", 285.
Mm-hmm. They played both those dudes on the edge as
Yeah.
Giants. It's a weird system.
28, Shamar Stewart. Again, edge rusher out of Texas A&M.
6'6", 290.
He's 6'6", 290.
And he's 2 inches taller
Yeah.
and heavier.
29, Ariante Ursary, offensive tackle out of Minnesota.
I think he's a tackle.
Yeah.
Probably a right tackle, but
30, Trey Amos, cornerback out of Ole Miss.
he's going to be someone we're talking about a lot too. Maybe if you trade down 2 or 3 spots, he fits the mold with the length and the man-to-man stuff, and
31 is Princely Umanalen, edge rusher out of Ole Miss.
Mm-hmm. Again, a lot of these edge rushers. It's going to be another theme is I think the Steelers want as many edge rushers to go off the board as possible in the top 20. And there could be a few.
At 32, he's got a name that most people have farther down the boards. Deone Walker, defensive tackle out of Kentucky. And he says he's listed at 6'6", but actually might be closer to 6'8".
Mm-hmm. He really stands out in an SEC game of who is that giant.
And that would be, if he is 6'8", would be one of the reasons why he has trouble against the run, because you're 6'8", everybody's going to get, especially if you're in the interior.
Mm-hmm.
All the guards and centers that you're playing against are 6'3" at most.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to get under your pads.
Yeah. So he needs to prove, can he keep his pads low and all that stuff? Is he really a nose? Or because they don't line him up at nose all that much.
Yeah. largely because of that.
Yeah.
33, Tyleik Williams, defensive tackle, Ohio State.
He is a nose.
Yeah.
He's a 6'3"-ish guy.
34, Caleb Johnson, running back, Iowa.
Pretty appealing. He's not easy to tackle.
35, Tyler Booker, guard out of Alabama.
Probably the first pure guard
to
go.
36, Donovan Jackson, guard, Ohio State.
I don't think we talked much about him, but scouts love him because he's probably a first-round type of guard or top 50 type of guard. A lot of those guys go early second round because you don't want to use the first, fifth-round option. But when what's-his-face got hurt at left tackle, he had to go play left tackle.
Out there,
and he did it fine. He's a guard, but the fact that he did it and didn't help his stock to do it,
37, Jack Sawyer, defensive end out of Ohio State.
He just seems like you know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
He's safe.
38, Siobhan Ravel, cornerback, East Carolina.
I would think he goes up and up, assuming he can start working out.
Yeah, I don't know if he's going to do any kind of workouts before the draft. That might
be pro
push
day.
him down.
Right. It might be one of those things
maybe
where
one of these guys. He tore his ACL in September.
Mm-hmm.
Does he ever get an opportunity to work out? I don't know.
For his sake, I hope he can do a private workout or a private pro day or something a week before the draft.
It might be something like that, or you just, you got to bring him. He'll be a name
that a lot of visits.
Yeah, he's going to be on everybody's visit list because everybody's going to want to check and see the latest update on that knee before the draft.
I bet he's in the South Side in February or March.
39 is Landon Jackson, the edge rusher out of Arkansas.
Okay, again, a lot of edges in the top 50.
40, Nick Emwari, safety out of South Carolina.
Seems low. For what he has physically, that seems low.
He is a monster.
Yeah.
41, Kenneth Grant, defensive tackle out of Michigan.
I think that's low, too. I'd rather have him than Walker, for the Steelers in particular.
Yeah. Another one of these guys, like a nose that, like typical Michigan players, there's not a lot of production.
The production, that goes back to Gary and a lot of these dudes, right?
It's more of a projection than anything else.
He's supposed to be a really good tester.
Yeah, he'll test really well.
Mm-hmm.
42, Jihad Campbell, linebacker out of Alabama.
Probably not for the Steelers.
43 is Mike Green, the edge rusher out of Marshall.
Really good player.
44, Cameron Williams, offensive tackle out of Texas.
He's another one I think is pretty much a pure tackle and could start, does he go to the Chiefs at the end of the first round? Maybe. 45,
JT Tuimoloau, defensive end out of Ohio State.
Yeah, both those guys have played a lot of snaps.
46, Amarian Hampton, running back out of North Carolina.
He's probably our 2, don't you think? Both those guys are good.
He's going to run really fast.
He's running really fast. And he's a weapon.
And he's 220 pounds.
Yeah.
Here's the thing about the Steelers have a type at running back.
Yeah.
You better at least be 220 pounds.
Yeah.
Now,
if they're going to use a high pick on you.
Part of the conundrum has been, okay, if you're going to be that big, you're probably not going to be the fastest guy in the world. This guy is. Yeah.
Even as good as Lev Bell was, he didn't break off 80-yarders all that much. He had a lot of 20s and 30s, in his best days. But he didn't run away from defensive backs. Najee doesn't.
Hampton will.
Hampton opens it up.
Yeah. Marcus Mabau out of Purdue at 47. Now, they list him at center.
I saw that.
Yeah. He's going to work out, though, at center during the games.
During the combine?
Yeah.
Okay. Or at the Senior Bowl?
Yeah, he's played left guard, right tackle at the collegiate level.
It's not a great center draft.
No, it's not.
You could easily become the best center pretty quick. They're probably the Georgia dude's the best center draft.
48 for him is Jackson Dart, the quarterback out of Ole Miss.
Yeah. I need to be more open-minded with him, to be honest, because I'm very prejudiced against those guys that play in those Mickey Mouse goofy offenses. And that doesn't mean just because the dude that came out of there that Carolina drafted a couple years ago couldn't adapt doesn't mean this guy can't.
Yeah.
But he's got ability.
49 is Quinn Ewers, quarterback
out
of Texas. Talk
about him being like the best recruit in the country. He doesn't have a great arm. He's not big. He's not fast. I don't know how he was like the recruit in the country. I'm not saying he stinks. It's just I just don't see him as a super prospect.
50, Travion Henderson, running back out of Ohio State.
He will take it to the house.
Yeah. Now, he's 5'10", 208. So when I talk about the 220-pound thing at running back, like Jaylen Warren
he's not 220. I'm sure.
He's 220.
Is he?
But he's 5'9" and 220.
I know. That's because he's so short.
So he's built very much like Najee. He's just a bowling ball to tackle. If Jaylen Warren were 6 foot, Jaylen Warren would be 240 pounds.
Yeah. I see what you're saying now. Do you think Henderson is not for the Steelers? His big playability is great. That hasn't been the kind of back. Now, they've tried in various times the Dree Archers and guys of that nature. Yeah.
But they haven't taken, one of these guys. They haven't had a feature back who is that size since Willie Parker.
And I'm even going back to just Arthur Smith's history, too. No.
Right.
It's not even Algier. Bijan's big. Henry obviously was big.
Yeah.
Right. Probably not.
Probably
where
not.
you have to take Henderson. I mean,
if
you're not going to give him the third round.
Right.
I mean, you're going to use a second on him. I would understand it, but he better be your prototype to do that.
Yeah. So his top 5 quarterbacks, Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, Jackson Dart, Quinn Ewers, Jalen Milroe.
I say, is Milroe in there?
At running back, it's Genty, Caleb Johnson, Amarian Hampton, Travion Henderson, and Quinshawn Judkins.
Okay. For the Steelers, I prefer Judkins over his teammate, but I can see why generically Henderson would be more desired.
At wide receiver, he lists Hunter as his top wide receiver.
You got to put him somewhere, right?
Yeah. Then Burden, McMillan, Golden, Eguba. Tight end, it's Warren, Colston Lovelace, Mason Taylor from LSU, Elijah Arrojo from Miami, and Gunnar Helm from Texas.
The Mac kid didn't make it.
It's a really good tight end draft.
It's a really good tight end draft. There's probably 5 or 6 more on top of that.
Yeah, the tackles were all listed there, as were the guards.
Okay.
No centers made the list. No true centers.
Made his top 40.
We don't even need to go through them because the Steelers got their center.
In that market.
Edge rushers were all in the first round, 5 of them.
Yeah.
Defensive tackles were all in
they
that
were
top.
all spoken for.
Yeah. Linebackers, well, after Schlesinger and Jihad Carter, you had Campbell, I should say, Barrett Carter from Clemson, Chris Paul Jr. from Ole Miss, and Danny Stutzman from Oklahoma.
Be shocked if the Steelers in that neighborhood.
His cornerbacks, you had Will Johnson, Jade Barron, Trey Amos, Revel, and then Maxwell Hairston out of Kentucky. He's his 5th.
He didn't make the list, but probably not far off.
Yeah. Your safeties, Malachi Starks, M. Nwari, Xavier Watts, Kevin Winston, Andrew Makuba out of Texas. Kevin Winston from Penn State.
I think he's a Penn State, too.
Surprisingly, the Notre Dame kid didn't make his top 5 corners.
Ah, okay. That's the name missing there.
And wasn't in the top 50 anywhere.
That is surprising. I doubt that's just injury related.
Yeah.
Has to be more to it than that.
Yeah.
I don't know. That surprises me.
Yeah. But that's
Let's
Matt
get
Miller's
more and more familiar with these names.
rankings going into the Senior Bowl, and that stuff could change over the next week here. Yeah, and he'll update those on a regular basis here throughout the rest of the offseason here. Things change. You get more information. This guy's now healthy. That guy's now hurt.
Especially with
that
the
kind
injury
of stuff.
Yeah. And you find out more character stuff. And you find out new injuries at the combine, which is terrible, but that's the way it works.
Yeah. So, anyways, let's get to a break. When we come back, Matt and I will preview the
finish up the week
conference championship games, give our picks in those, and of course you can hear our show here every Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. right here on these very airwaves. You can also download the Steelers mobile app and get it downloaded right to your phone there. Just let everybody know, no video next week until at all next week or Friday.
Friday we'll be back
up on YouTube.
Schedule,
I'm going to be down in Mobile. Matt will be back here in Pittsburgh, and we'll have to do the show that way. So that doesn't lend itself well to video.
Could have some guests, though, from Mobile, hopefully.
We could, hopefully.
Yeah,
I'll have to talk to some people down there and see if I can get them to come on with me. But anyways, let's get to a break. He's Matt Williamson. I'm Dale Lolley. This is The Drive on the Steelers Audio Network. And we are back. I'm Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And let's take a look at this week's conference championship games. The first one will be played in Philadelphia, 3 o'clock Sunday on Fox. Philadelphia favored by 6 over the 6-seeded Washington Commanders. The over-under 47.5. And
I don't think we're expecting bad weather at either game.
No,
I mean, it'll be cold, of course. It's Philadelphia, it's Kansas City. It's late January, but I'm sure there'll be wind and maybe flurry or two. But I don't think it's going to be bad. I hate this Cosme injury for them.
That's a rough one.
It's a rough one. You wouldn't think it's that big a deal, but it's exactly where Carter lines up. Everyone's doubling him like crazy. And Daniels can avoid
unless
him,
you're Kevin Dotson and you just say, "Oh, I'm going to go over here and double this guy," while you run up the field in a critical situation and allow you to sack the quarterback.
I tend to think that having a third game probably favors the Eagles just because they have superior players that have been around the block. I don't know how much out-scheming you're going to do in a game like that. I do think they have the quarterback advantage in Washington, though. Yeah. I just don't know where a lot of the other ones come from. I mean, he can make plays. He's going to be hard to tackle. McLaurin and company are fine. But, man, I think that defense is strong. I don't think there's a lot of weaknesses in it. I think the Commanders have come to an end of a very nice road.
Yeah, it's been a successful season for them one way or the other.
I don't like Philly's passing game where it stands right now, and they're running the ball even more in the playoffs than they did in the regular season. So something like 74% of their first down calls are runs in the playoffs. I mean, it's off the charts. I don't know how much Hurts will run, but that Saquon guy sure will.
He's pretty good.
He's pretty good. And
yeah.
I'm not sold on Washington's defense as a championship defense. It's better than I thought it was going to be at the start of the season. I could see this one getting away from Washington, and I think Philly covers.
Yeah. I could see Washington, how can I say this politely, doing something stupid early in the game, like going for it on 4th and 3 and not getting it, and then the thing's just snowballing. Yes.
And it's a Saquon.
Because that's just what they do.
Yeah, they do. Sure do a lot of it.
At some point, that bites you in the butt.
Mm-hmm. And they're playing with house money, and yeah, right.
I get it. I mean, that's what you do. You roll with it.
You live by the sword, you die by the sword.
You're going to die by the sword at some point, one of these games. It's just, at some point, it's going to bite you.
Really tough place to play. I mean, Eagles, I think, are strong up front. Guys like Nolan Smith are playing better than given credit for, too. I mean, the defense as a whole is so much better than it was a year ago. I think they can contain Washington enough. And then the other side of the ball, I think, really belongs to Philly.
Yeah. Eagles have won 9 straight games at home.
Yeah. Awful place to play.
Really difficult place to play. The Commanders are 5-3 outright and 6-2 against the spread this season as underdogs.
That doesn't surprise me.
They have 3 straight outright wins as underdogs.
I mean, I'm sure the whole first 6 weeks of the season they were dogs when the whole world didn't know they were good. I
can't remember what the spread was when the Steelers were down there.
I think it was a low number, but I can't remember who was even favored.
I can look that up here as we continue to talk about this game. Yeah, but I just think that it's been a nice story, and we've seen 6 seeds come through before and win, but I think the Eagles they're the better team.
They're the better team. Their O-line is really good. The defense is maybe the best in the league. That's a challenge, man. In their building,
the Commanders were favored by 2.5 in that game.
Okay,
so
yeah, I mean they're a good football team.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you laying the 6?
That's the tough part. I think I am.
Okay. I don't have a problem with it either. I'm definitely taking the Eagles, and I'll give up the points.
Yeah. The second game at 6:30 in Kansas City, the second-seeded Bills at the number 1-seeded Chiefs. Kansas City now favored by 2. Was 1.5 earlier in the week.
It keeps bouncing back and forth. I think. Yeah.
The over-under 47.5. That's the crazy thing to me is that both over-unders are 47.5 because I view these two games a little differently.
Me too. I like the over in this one much more so than the other game. I think you see it the same way. I think there's going to be a lot more points in this one.
Yeah.
And I could see both these teams. Neither one of these teams even throw the ball downfield that much. But I think by the fourth quarter, gloves are off, and it's just drive after drive. And, we get an all-time classic, and last team that has the ball wins type of thing, or it comes down to a kick in the end. I'll take the points, but I'm picking Kansas City to win.
I like Buffalo to win this outright.
Do you?
I do. When they played in the regular season, the Bills ran 71 offensive plays to 52 for Kansas City, and they did that because they were 9 for 15 on third downs.
Yeah.
Allen gives you that.
Oh man, I think he's going to run a lot.
X-factor on third downs where, all right, it's 3rd and 6, you got everybody covered.
Yeah.
And he
runs. An answer for him.
Yeah. You don't have an answer for it.
I don't know the numbers exactly, but they're near the top of the league in allowing scramble yardage. Kansas City.
Yeah.
And I think they've kind of...
They play a lot of man on the back end.
Yeah, and they blitz a lot. And
Yeah.
if a blitz doesn't get home, he goes to where the blitz was, and you have 6 tacklers instead of 7, or,
I also just think it's his year.
I'm kind of hoping it is. He's very, very easy to root for. I think he's a phenomenal football player. I'm going to take the Chiefs to win it at home, though. A lot of it's just history. The Bills come up short all the time, like my whole lifetime, and the Chiefs go to the Super Bowl a lot.
Here's the thing. The Chiefs have gone 8 straight games, including the playoffs, without turning the ball over.
No, the turnover stuff's going to be massive, just like Ravens-Bills.
To go 9 straight games without a turnover,
Yeah.
that doesn't happen.
No, it's very rare. It's rare to go 6. It's rare to go 5.
Yeah.
Right. And I do think their edge protection's a real problem. The tackle stuff is very real. Could a guy like everyone's talking about like Kelsey, he's saving his best for last, and could Von Miller make a big play? An all-time
The old
great
guys,
that has, last hurrah type of thing. Absolutely could. Rousseau's going to cause problems. Ed Oliver. In the end, though, I'm going to bank on Reed and Mahomes and their building. Tough place to play. Not that I think that the Bills will be fazed by that.
They've done it before.
But I'm so wishy-washy on it that any points, I'll take the points.
The Bills committed the fewest turnovers in the league this season with 8.
There's so few negative plays on that team. It's unbelievable.
They forced 35.
Yeah.
I mean,
they also had like the best sack differential in the league. Things like that. They have reinvented themselves, especially Allen. That he just doesn't have the negative. He used to be such a wild stallion.
Yeah, I just think that these two guys are Allen and Mahomes are 4-4 against each other outright and against the spread in their careers. But Mahomes is 3-0 outright and against the spread in the playoffs.
Yeah.
That can't hold up. It just can't. I think Allen's due. I
believe all those things.
Now, the interesting part of this, you know who the official is for this game?
No clue.
One Cleet Blakeman.
Ah, really?
Mr.
It'd be a different
Penalty.
crew, but still.
Mr. Penalty is doing this game.
Who does that favor?
Well,
I would think
as it is
with the Chiefs' holds and tackles, I would think that's bad for them.
So, Mahomes was drafted in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
In that time, Cleet Blakeman has worked 12 Chiefs games.
Okay.
The Chiefs are 6-6.
Wow.
When Blakeman works
that has
the
to be
games.
their worst record with Eddie Ref.
When everybody else officiates the game, they're 110-30.
I wonder if it's a tackle thing. I mean, their defensive backs are kind of historically grabby and get away with it. Not more than others, but they will test that. I don't know.
Juwan Taylor gets away with a lot of
some alignment stuff and false starts.
Quick
that's why
starts.
I'm leaning. That's why, yeah.
That makes me even more confident that the Bills win this game.
It's a big deal. I mean,
it's a huge deal.
It's a different crew. He doesn't have all the same folks.
But they talk, and here's what I want to watch for, and this is what we want to call.
He's still in charge.
He's still in charge. And Cleet is Mr. Penalty.
Mm-hmm.
We went through all that stuff a couple of weeks ago. I
don't know who has a special teams advantage.
The fact that he's working this game means he graded really well.
It's the biggest game of the year. I mean, it's going to be the most watched game probably in NFL history. The Chiefs game last week was. This one's bigger, on a better stage against even a better opponent, and they gave it to him. They must think he's their best guy.
Does it make you want to change your pick?
Oh, I'm taking the points. I'm taking the Bills.
I know, but outright.
No.
You're talking about it's a 2-point game, 1.5-point game right now.
I know.
You're taking the points. If you
I think it's going to go down to the last kick, and
that was always
down to the wire.
One of the things that I've always was told, like, okay, if you're going to take the underdog,
points,
-3, you might as well take them to win the game outright because
I get that.
The odds on
Pursuta tells me that all the time.
It falling into that range are slight.
Right. I think they can win, but full transparency. I have not done anything on this game other than I did take the over. But the second I see it go to 2, I'm going to. 1.5, I haven't. But if it goes to 2, I'm going to go on the Bills.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think they just win it outright.
They can.
Go ahead and take the money line.
I don't feel confident with that. In KC.
That's why you're getting points.
I get
That's
it.
why the money line's going to be.
Do we think KC would be a dog in Buffalo?
Vegas must.
I guess. We're close.
It was 30-21 the last time.
KC goes to Super Bowl. It's kind of what they do.
Not every
I can't
time.
imagine Kansas City
They've been
being
here before and not gone to the Super Bowl. Joe Burrow beat them in Kansas City.
I mean, it's happened, but
Joe
doesn't
Burrow
happen
beat them
often.
in Kansas. I'm telling
They've
you
won
right
2
now.
in a row.
Take the Bills.
I am planning on it. I'm not picking them to win. I can't believe the Chiefs would be a dog anywhere.
Vegas is telling us they
in Detroit, on the moon.
They're saying it would be.
Game.
They're saying it would be.
And bettors might change it. Maybe it'd come out with them getting a point. And
They
then,
might.
You know,
But
if this was in Buffalo and KC was getting points, I would have already had money on it. They win championships.
Not every time.
Not every time, but last 2 and a lot more since.
That's okay. Not this year.
I'm kind of hoping that way.
Not this year.
But I think
I'm drawing the line in the sand. It is not going to happen this year. I think the Bills are.
I do think the winner of this game is going to the Super Bowl, though.
Going to the Super Bowl?
Who's going to win the Super Bowl?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. The winner of this game is going to the Super Bowl.
I think the Bills could win it, but I'm going to hold out for points.
I think this is just Allen's season. I think it's a special.
Kind of hoping.
I think it's a special year for him.
I think he'll get one eventually. This year's probably his best chance yet.
Yeah.
There's no question about that. Kansas City's not as good as they usually are.
No. Anyways, that's going to do it for today's show. So for my partner, Matt Williamson, for Justin Miller here on site, making sure the everything sounds great and running the Justin Miller hotline, and for Tyler Vittmeyer, making sure our video gets out there onto YouTube. I'm Dale Lolley. We thank you for listening to this edition of The Drive on the Steelers Audio Network.
Steelers football happens here. The Pittsburgh Steelers Audio Network.